Good afternoon, it's Melissa Kay. I'm speaking to you today. It's episode 2 of Providence Journal. Welcome back and thank you for joining me. Today I'm filming on George Street and we're just looking up to Shirley Street, and to my right and south of me is the famous Government House. And today, for your enjoyment, I'm going to be showcasing the life of a beautiful woman called the Countess of Ranfurly, but specifically her time in Nassau, Bahamas, and some of the family islands she visited. She was here during 1953 to 1956. Her husband was the governor of the Bahamas, Lord Ranfurly, and he was known to her and their friends as Dan. Now, he seemed to have Australian background, and so she and he were very, very well known to the Commonwealth. She had Welsh background. One of the things she said throughout her diaries was that the people of the Bahamas reminded her a lot of the Welsh people, insofar as Bahamian people had very beautiful singing voices and very beautiful lilts to their voices and very beautiful storytelling qualities. And she mentioned this over and over in her book, and I just want to showcase her book today for you. Her name is Hermione. And this particular book was put together by her daughter Caroline after her mother's death. Hermione had written diaries throughout her long life. She lived to be 83. And this was the work of her life from 1945 to 2001. Her daughter put it together posthumous. And what is so beautiful about this writing of the time period that this lady was in the Bahamas, right there, living right there from 1953 to 1956, was that she was given a burning, driving love for the children of the Bahamas. Because throughout this entire work, I can tell this woman had such a beautiful love for children. And when she was here in the Bahamas, she observed that children who had lost their parents, who were orphaned, they didn't have anywhere to live. Like, they might have been, handed over to certain older women in the community or to older relatives. But at the end of the day, these particular people who were given care of these orphans, they didn't have the means to take care of these children. And God gave this Countess of Ranfurly a burning love for the children of the Bahamas. It's throughout her work. I'm just so blessed to have read this book by her. And I'm just so touched, and it's because of her that we actually have the Ranfurly Home for Children today. This lady, Hermione, she created the Ranfurly Home for Children, and she managed to pull together about 15,000 pounds, raise money painstakingly over a 3-year period. And I think that would be about the equivalent of about 30,000 Bahamian or American dollars today. And she got that money in installments, and she raised money. And I have to say, she mentions Harold Christie giving her a good big chunk of money to get that home open now. That home is on Mackey Street, and that home is thriving today through the repeated and ongoing charity work, particularly of Bahamian women who have a passion for keeping that orphanage going. And it's a labor of love, because taking care of children is very expensive. And there's never enough money. They burn the money before you could make it, my cousin always says about being a father. But I just wanted to say that I was so touched and so moved by her work with the Ranfurly Home. That's one. 2, I was touched and moved by her burning love for getting books to people, not just throughout the entire Bahamas, but throughout her life. When she moved back home with her husband to England, she continued it on, and she set up the Book Aid International. And while she was here, she set up the Ranfurly Library Service, and that continued on Sydney, Australia. So she would actually be all the time in this same Government House. She would be up there. It's pictures of her with her friends, with a little girl, Caroline, boxing up books, sorting books, labeling books, painting books with anti-termite procedures and so forth. And, she gave a lot of time and love to the Bahamas in the short 3 years that she was here. Now, having said that, I would also like to just briefly showcase another book that I stumbled into about the Duke of Windsor. This book, there are many, 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 many books written on the Duke and the Duchess of Windsor. because the abdication was such a big, juicy story. It was juicier than juicy fruit. I want you to know that, because when I went away to school, the amount of books in the library that I could find on this couple, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, their years in New York, London, all over France, they partied and they held court, they entertained, they dined, they went out. And you know, when you don't have a pile of children around your head, all you have is time and money. And so this particular man, once he had abdicated, he actually was up here prior to the Ranfurlys. He was here during the war years, 1940 and so forth. So this is a very beautiful work written by our very own former Governor General, Sir Orville Turnquest. And there's a very, very short passage I would like to read about when the Duke of Windsor found out that his beloved Wallace would not be given majestical honors. He was heartbroken, and this is what it says. Many years later, Sir Dudley Forwood, who at the time was the Duke's equerry, an officer of the British royal household charged with his care, reported that when the Duke became aware of this decision, namely that his wife and descendants, if any, would not hold said title, style, or attribute, he put down his beautiful head with its golden hair in my lap and sobbed helplessly, said Sir Dudley Forwood. His heart was broken, and in a sense, it never healed. And I'll just wrap up this episode too today and just sharing that Hermione, while she was living up here with her husband, Dan, the Lord Ranfurly, she was paid a lovely visit by the Duke of Windsor around 1953, and he ran up and down through the house. He was so excited to be back in Government House. And she describes the visit in really lovely terms, and you could tell she bonded with him beautifully. And so I just want to introduce these two books to you today. If you're any students of history and you're looking for something new to read, these two books are beautifully attached to Government House, George and Shirley Streets. And that wraps up this episode too today. And I'm calling this episode The Lady's Vision because of her vision with children and her tireless vision with books. I just want to showcase briefly too that this beautiful mural art behind me is indicative of the way that the city of Nassau is evolving through the Transforming Spaces project, whereby beautiful and talented artists are painting all over the place, places that used to be sort of abandoned and run down. And this is a little bit of a pub green space, you know, that people use to grill out and have drinks and so forth. And artists such as these are now being able to be showcased at Bahamas, the current gallery. And some of them are blessed enough to get residences at the current gallery at Bahamas. So you'll hear more about that hopefully in the coming months. But this is a lovely example of one such artist. And thank you very much for joining me.